Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jasim Azawi. A massive military operation to annihilate Al-Qaeda in Iraq is underway. But can US troops keep the ground once the smoke is cleared? Muqtada's militias keep attacking the Iraqi army. So what prevents al-Maliki from declaring him an outlaw and pave the way for the Americans to take him out? Or is that a recipe for an outright civil war? General David Petraeus is to testify before the US Senate in September. But will the enemy also get to vote in an August surprise? A hot, bloody summer is looming in the Iraqi horizon as Iran smiles and watch the Americans stew in their own juice. Imran Khan reports.
They call this operation Arrowhead Ripper. The imagery of the words is deliberate. To rip the arrow out the hands of the enemy. The enemy, in this case, is Al-Qaeda. US and Iraqi troops have mounted a massive operation in Diyala province. Some 10,000 troops are involved. So far, they say that more than 30 Al-Qaeda fighters have been killed. And as they search from house to house, the Iraqis are hoping that they'll be successful. Al-Qaeda is a #1 priority.
Al-Qaeda rely on very lethal attack on Iraqis to ignite civil war, to ignite sectarian violence, and definitely they have an objective to turn Iraq into a base for them, or to establish Iraqi Islamic State, as they have called themselves recently, for their future operation.
The US military also has a lot riding on the success of this operation. It's part of the surge to secure this oil-rich country, and the top general in Iraq has to report back to the White House on his success doing just that in September. But so far it's been bad news. The bombing of a Shia shrine, a mounting death toll, and streets on fire. The Americans are desperate to stop this kind of violence, and to do that they need a plan. However, is going after Al-Qaeda in one province with large numbers of troops the right strategy? History would suggest not. If you squeeze Al-Qaeda in one place, then it just reappears in another. It feels like we've been here before. Fallujah 2004, and the Americans mounted a similar operation against Al-Qaeda. Back then, they said that this would be the beginning of the end. Well, it certainly feels like the end of the beginning, but the end is far from sight. Imran Khan for Inside Iraq.
To examine the American strategy in Iraq, its validity and chances of success and failure, I'm joined from Washington by Dr. David Pollock, a visiting fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, and by Carl Conetta, spokesman for Project on Defense Alternatives, and from London by Dr. Saad Jawad Qandil, an advisor to Iraqi Vice President Adel Abdel Mahdi. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. Dr. Pollock, many military strategists as well as political pundits, they predict that the American strategy in Iraq is doomed. Why is that? Why do they think that the surge itself as well as subsequent phases will not work?
Well, I don't agree with that assessment. So the only reason I can think of why so many people say that it's doomed is that that's what they would like to think. They would see that as perhaps their preferred outcome. I don't think there's any reason to think that it's doomed. I think the chances for success are very mixed at best, but to say that it's doomed is a gross exaggeration in my view.
I take it, Mr. Conetta, you disagree with that, evidenced by the fact that the last 4 years, they haven't been that great for the U.S. strategy in Iraq.
No, this isn't our first surge. This isn't the first surge we've had. It's probably the fifth, depends on how you measure it. The past leaves us no good reason to believe that this one will succeed where others have failed. I think the best we might see from this is a temporary lull. We might get some breathing space in some areas and for some period of time.
Imran Khan was suggesting that Al-Qaeda in Iraq is the classic Pillsbury Doughboy. You squeeze it here and it appears there.
Yes, but the difference is that this time what we're trying to do, what U.S. forces and Iraqi forces are trying to do, that's different, is to surround the Al-Qaeda forces so that they can't simply move from one place to another the way they did before.
Explain to me, how is it possible that a member of the Iraqi government in the form of, for instance, Muqtada Sadr, he has about 5 ministers, he has almost 30 members in parliament, that political bloc is attacking the Iraqi government itself, the Iraqi army?
I don't think the Sayyid Muqtada Sadr or his Mahdi army is attacking the Iraqi government. I think not even attacking the American army. The Sayyid Muqtada Sadr made it clear that he is after the troops pull out from Iraq, but he is following a peaceful political means to achieve that, and he has got no enmity with the Iraqi government at all.
In the face of overwhelming evidence, Dr. Qandil, this denial does not carry much weight. I mean, the fightings we have been seeing in Diwaniyah, in Nasiriyah, Al-Amara, in many other parts of Iraq between Jaish al-Mahdi and the Iraqi army and the US. I mean, simply stating it, that they are not doing it, it just doesn't carry any weight.
I think what happened in Basra, Diwaniyah, Amara is skirmishes. Sometimes it is inter-militia conflicts or struggle. It is not an all-out conflict or all-out war between Jaish al-Mahdi and the Iraqi government.
Well, let me listen to a former member of the US government with the State Department, Dr. Pollock. You just heard an advisor to the Iraqi vice president saying that Jaish al-Mahdi is neither attacking the Iraqi army nor the American army. How do you listen to such statements?
Well, I think what Dr. Saad actually said was that there are skirmishes. There are small-scale incidents that involve some fighting between Jaish al-Mahdi and either American forces or Iraqi government forces or other militias from the
God forbid what it would be like
others.
If it is going to be an all-out war between Jaish al-Mahdi and American army then.
I don't think there's any reason to think that that's going to happen. And in fact, I think part of the problem is that Muqtada Sadr doesn't have full control over many elements of the Jaish al-Mahdi. So there are rogue elements that are outside of his control. But what he has done in the last few weeks, I think, offers some hope that he will be a more responsible actor on the Iraqi political scene.
The principal target of U.S. operations at this time are not Sadr's forces, except in those cases where elements of that army contest with the United States. I think that our future plans for Sadr's forces are another matter. But right now, the aim is not his forces, if in fact they'll stand down, as most have. It may well be that in those cases where there are skirmishes, we might be cleaning his house for him. I don't think the future is a buddy-buddy future, quite the opposite.
Now that he's wearing the mantle of nationalism, it's only a question of time before the U.S. Rest a little bit then before they take him out and his militia? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that the American vision for Iraq really includes a large role for Mr. Sadr, for that type of force. I don't think that that's the future we envision.
Dr. Saad Qandil, you said that these are inter-militias clashes or skirmishes, as you put them. And we saw a glimpse of that a few months back between Jaish al-Mahdi and the Badr Brigade, which is the very same scary Al-Majlis Al-A'la Lil-Thawra Al-Islamiyya that you belong to. Explain to Americans, and for that matter for a wider world, if Iraq is a democracy, why do Iraqis need militias? Why do we need Jaish al-Mahdi as well as the Badr Brigade?
No, Iraqis do not need militias.
So they should be disbanded?
I think time for...
They should be disbanded?
They should be disbanded.
Immediately?
They should be disbanded. Well, immediately, I don't know. We have to be realistic. It's not easy. These militias have been deeply rooted in the society. There is a big security gap.
They are 4 years old, Dr. Saad. What do you mean rooted? What do you mean rooted in the Iraqi society? It's only 4 years old since militias sprout all over the place.
You see, so, these militias, they acted in defense of the Iraqi people to fight the old regime. So they are not 4 years old. They are much more than 4 years old. They have been doing a distinctive role in fighting the previous regime, and they have played a distinctive role in bringing down this regime.
Now that you are not part
Yes.
of the U.S. government, you are at liberty perhaps
Yes.
to stipulate and say your opinions in a much freer way. When you listen to Dr.
Yes.
Saad, do you agree with him, or
Yes.
do you find many holes in that argument?
I agree about the Badr Corps. I think that there's no question that historically this is an organization that is rooted in Iraqi society, and at least in the Shia segment of Iraqi society. There's no question about that in my mind. I don't think that that's true of Jaish al-Mahdi. Jaish al-Mahdi is a much more recent phenomenon, as you said, Mr. Jasim. And I think that it has a lot of popular support, there's no question about it, but it would be misleading to suggest that it has the same historical role of fighting against the old regime. Now, there are many questions that remain, I think, to be answered about all of these militias. And I was very happy to hear Dr. Saad say that they do need to be disbanded, although perhaps trying to do that right now is not realistic. One of the questions has to do with the extent of Iranian influence on these militias. And to me, that's a very troublesome aspect of the situation that needs to be discussed more openly.
Thank you, Dr. Pollack.
By
We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, we're going to ask whether the U.S. has the staying power to stabilize Iraq. Stay with us.
In fact, typically, I think historically, counterinsurgency operations have gone at least 9 or 10 years. General David Petraeus, U.S. top military commander in Iraq.